Okay, I'd just like to welcome Denise as President of the Kallangur Business Association for this first session on Zoom. The way the world has changed a bit. So we're sitting in different rooms, but it still feels like we're together. And again, the information at the end of the day will be relevant to all those who can listen who are online at the moment, or get to listen to this meeting at a later stage when it's more convenient for themselves. As most people are working, so they can't just drop everything for this meeting. So we appreciate that for those who will be able to listen to this meeting and listen to the answers that Denise gives for the questions that we've got from our members in advance. So I'll just hand it now over to Felice to have the interview with Denise, and thanks, Denise, for giving us your time today.
Welcome.
Hi, Denise. Thank you for joining us today. I've got a couple of questions ready for you. I'm just going to, there we go. So in March, the council announced a $1 million refund for food licensing fees for businesses. Have the refunds all been processed yet?
Sure, Felice, do you mind if I actually just do welcome to country?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, so do you mind? We respectfully acknowledge the traditional country on which we meet today. We also acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional custodians and the elders past, present and emerging. So thank you, welcome everyone. Thank you for the question. We've actually processed there's about over 1,200 businesses that have benefited as a result of the refund in food licensing fees. And yeah, so just about all of them, I've got some notes here. All of the refunds have been processed, and the last batch of checks, 81 actually being sent to businesses today. And yeah, total of 1,212 refunds. So that's across our region. So that would be, your vendors, your coffee shops, but also your food vans, because they were really hugely affected by this. So yeah, it was just part of the 15 million COVID package that council had.
Wow, that's pretty good. If a business hasn't received theirs yet, or after a couple of days of receiving the check, what should they do?
Well, I think they can contact me, our office, but 32050555 is our normal number, and they can actually contact them and ask to be put through regarding the food licensing. I'll just actually check here. Yeah, so then it says a customer request will be generated. They'll be referred to the food safety and licensing area of our public health unit. And an officer from the unit will then follow up inquiry and actually directly make contact with them as well. So,
yep, that's good to hear. With regards to the phone number, could you repeat that again?
Sure. So it's 3205.
Yep.
0555.
0555. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Also in March, the council announced a $2 million towards accelerated asset maintenance work. What sort of work does that entail? Is it all roadwork types of work, or yeah, more detail?
No, it wasn't actually. It was actually to do with it was to do with community groups and our also even like, for example, at John Oxley we met just the other day, so yesterday, day before, we met 3 businesses on site, and they were doing $28,000 worth of work down at the community centre. So we had Bribey Island Electrical doing the electrical work and doing some upgrades to the LED, so that would reduce cost for the community groups using it. We then had Award Plumbing from Meetons Hill, and they were repairing the roof and the skylight, guttering and that sort of thing. And then we had Sensors Building, and they are from Strathpine. So that's, and then what they're doing is they did repairing some posts and some painting and things like that as well. So there's been a significant amount, and we've just done this for local, local businesses, like anyone can tender, but we've actually done the weighting towards our local businesses. So they have to kind of, be competitive on price, and then we give a weighting to our local businesses. So it was fantastic because it keeps our jobs local, and the money comes back into a local economy. So that certainly strengthens our region. That's a very exciting delivery by council.
Yep. I agree. What sort of businesses will primarily be used?
So it's actually really, it's got here, so yeah, really small to medium-sized local tradies, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, so we've actually, there's been grants through the Kallangur Community Hall, for example, have been, their solar panels have just been installed. We got a letter today from about the U3A in Kallangur there as well, and they've been given a grant by 50,000 to enclose the back area, so they've got an extra meeting room. So then that's the same again. I know the Kallangur Bowls Club have also upgrading a disability toilet for those people with disability. And so all these initiatives really, it was just kind of bringing forward and putting out there. So it's been a huge benefit, and I think it's really built confidence with our community groups, because they actually feel supported, but also doing these things like the food licensing really, we believe that helps our businesses feel supported as much as we can as a local government. You've got the federal and the state doing their initiatives, but this is something that we could deliver on the ground and fairly quickly as well. So
you touched on just before about the procurement policy. So recently the council announced preference for local businesses and called for more businesses to register in the vendor panel marketplace. Can you give us an idea of the range of industries used and to what level of degree?
Yeah, look, it's huge. I don't know if you've seen it. So what we'll do after the session is email some attachments and a body of what we're talking about today. And that will go out to each of you. So you've just got it in one place, because I think one of the hardest things for local businesses is that there's so many different avenues you can go, isn't there? Like it's really, I don't know about you, but when I was local, so when I was a small business owner, we there's help out there, but where do you go? You want someone to actually bring it all together. So we'll give you some information. There's a huge range on there. You've got anything from finance, then you go right through to building works and painting, what we've mentioned, specialised work as well. So there's it's yeah. I think you actually put it up on your Facebook, did you not? The vendor panel, yeah. So
yes, yeah, it is huge. It's a really long list.
It's got here, extensive list of industries and categories the local business nominates when registering on the vendor panel marketplace. So it's a fairly, it's not too onerous. I think Sharon's actually just getting a little, I felt left out. So I said, Sharon, can you bring me a Moreton Bay thing? So she's, as we speak, I tell you, look at this. So she's going to slide something in the back there.
Oh, very cool.
Look at this.
Well done.
Hey. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is my assistant Sharon. Do you want to see?
Hi, Sharon.
Sorry. Thanks, Sharon. That's brilliant. Yeah. The communication's working. Yeah, so and I'll send it through to you. But it's a huge list of industries, so it kind of segues into your next question, I think, with Jennifer. So.
Yeah, it is huge online. And when I was taking a snapshot for the Facebook post that you mentioned, yes, it was huge, and it's really hard to get into one small meme. But so we one of our new members, Jennifer, would like to know more if there are any copyright writing publishing tenders about.
No. No, they're not. So we actually asked if there were, and it says no tenders in the market on there for copyright, writing or publishing. And so I'd really encourage Jennifer, because, if there's a future need for this, we can use that vendor panel and the local government tender box for that. So I'd really encourage Jennifer it's procurement at moretonbay.qld.gov.au, and I'll send that through as well for Jennifer's information.
Okay.
And I'd certainly welcome your involvement in that and the opportunity to showcase your businesses and your skills and your abilities too.
So that email address would be one to use also if there was any other industries that thought they would that if they couldn't find themselves on the vendor panel, that they could suggest it via that email address.
Yeah. So it's so the end of it is the moretonbay.qld.gov.au, but the start is procurement.
Okay.
So so if you can, but I'll send it to you so you've got it all in one place.
Yep.
I think Jennifer send a question through, did she?
She did, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Jennifer, did you want to talk about it now? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Sure.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. Yeah, I have done the initial step of registering on that one, vendor panel. But then, yeah, I think I got lost in the process.
Oh, you did? Or
it sent me some emails, I think. Yeah. I've got a couple on the works for tender sites. So yeah, I got a welcome. There we go. So I've got a registration done. Yeah.
And that sort of brings us in probably to the next question. What's involved in a tender process?
I think that there's probably about 4 main steps, and the first one is that it's actually determining our requirements. I think that's really important because we do have specific requirements, so that's first on the list probably. The second one is that it's releasing the tender or the invitation document to the market. So that's the second one, and I'll certainly have these for you too, Jennifer. The third one is evaluating supplier responses. So this also may include, calcs and all that sort of stuff. And number 4 is the award contracted to the supplier. So it really depends on how big it is. For example, we've gone out for tender for Braze McClintock. Now that's a bigger one, and that'll actually take 6 weeks. But we would hope that would, depending on the values, depending on the value too, whether it comes back to council or not as well for a decision. So that's the other thing as well. But Jennifer, I think that the thing is that I will give you a phone number and even a person's name, so then you can talk directly. Did you need assistance with that? I mean, I know this is more operational, but do you need help in the steps?
Yeah, probably. But I have to know whether that sort of project is ever listed. I mean, there's no point going through heaps of steps and then finding out you don't list anything.
Yeah. Well, so let's actually squash that down, and then we'll actually get someone to talk through those operational things for you to make that a little bit more streamlined, and whether this is an opportunity for you or there's something else. But certainly, so we'll do that for you.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Now, you mentioned about what's involved in the tender process from the council's perspective. What's involved in the tender process from a potential client perspective?
Yeah, so it's interesting because it was really great to talk to these 3 businesses the other day, how they actually went through that process, and just the benefits to them and the local. Their local needs. So I think probably that are you talking about operational now, Felice? You're talking about actually, what the businesses need to do.
Yes, what the businesses need to do. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think that probably just goes back to the 4 ones that I said. Determining the council requirements. You need to then release that tender to publicly, and then we evaluate that the supplier responses, then award the supplier. So, but so I think the best thing to do would probably talk to our, someone from our tender team to actually walk through that with you.
Yep. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, are there any other business support areas, packages that the council provide that we haven't talked about?
Look, I think the release of the $15 million package is kind of flowed out and mostly taken up. The grants, there's still some grants that are coming through, but I think it would be really helpful. I've got and I'm going to send this through to you as well. So there's the Business Moreton Bay website, and that's got lots of free online workshops and professional development, and I would really encourage anyone in business to do that. These are free and great tools. It includes professional development training opportunities. It also includes workshops held by Regional Development Australia, and Moreton Bay, and some of these are either free or at very, very little cost. I also want to mention about the Moreton Bay Region Business Expo. That's actually happening on the 29th of October 2020 at the Hope Centre in Rothwell. And if you have experienced financial hardship during this time, you can get a waiver as well. So I think that's great. So yeah, that's actually it's supported by us, by council, also by MBRC, and it's designed to help businesses to connect, promote and sell their products. It was originally supposed to be at Griffin State School. Can you remember that one?
Oh,
yeah. It was going to be huge, but they've had to, I think, because of COVID, it's made it really quite difficult. The other one is the expansion of our PD or professional development workshop programs. And has anyone been along to any of the workshops that MBRC run, the business series?
Not the MBRC ones. There was a RDA one that I went to, and that was quite helpful. It was quite helpful. I haven't been to the MBRC ones. I found them more along the tourism side, but I'll unmute it. So, well, actually, anyone who wants to mention if they've been, just unmute your mic. But yes, and input your experience in. Jennifer?
Yeah, I've been to MBRC Facebook ads workshop, which was free, which was good. Yeah,
look, and we've actually asked them to expand that, Jennifer, as well, because I felt that was a bit limited. I think you were correct, Felice, in that it was, it could have been expanded. So what we've asked them to do is to include social media marketing, strategic business planning, people management, building a brand, and even disaster planning, like what we've gone through is what we call disaster planning. So you can subscribe to the mailing list, and so we're including this document in your in the mail out that we'll do afterwards. And then there's the Moreton Bay Tough. It's a community. I don't know if you've seen that, the yellow one that's been around. And that's really just to support the community, to support local businesses as well. So I think it's important. Some people doing it really tough out there. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that sounds like lots of really helpful information. So we're looking forward to the links in that you share, and we'll post them on our website as well as Facebook page, so that everyone gets benefit. Now, a little bit more local, can you give us information about the road changes around the new shopping centre that has a Woolworths being built on the corner of Old Gympie Road and Alma Road?
Yeah, sure. Well, I actually got an update from from Woolworths yesterday about when that's likely to open. So we're looking in about 4 weeks. That was a $35 million investment by Woolworths.
Wow.
Which is, it's pretty good. So we're looking, so during build it was about 150 jobs, and then at completion we're looking around 200 jobs that will be needed for that site. And yeah, so certainly I think, we're not sure because it's a click and collect. So, as far as queuing and things like that, these are the things that I've raised with our development services. In that, whether there's future need for some traffic lights there. So that's what I've investigated. I think if you look along Old Gympie Road as a whole, I'm not sure if you realise there's 88 million going to be spent along there in the next 10 to 12 years. And I've brought some projects forward. And I think the first cab off the rank is the one up to around Hughes Road, around the Dacobin dump area, and the other one I brought forward is Whitehorse Road. As you know, that's getting increasing pressure, from the development in there. So yeah, so it's a huge amount of investment that we're doing along there.
The additional traffic coming out of the shopping centre via Shepparton Street, or the new shopping centre via Shepparton Street, across traffic onto Alma Road, it'll be very dangerous because it's really close to the Old Gympie Road intersection, and there's a bit of a blind spot if you go over the hill heading towards the intersection. it'll hamper and also hamper the traffic turning into the shopping centre, into Shepparton Street from Alma Road. Is there plans for lights on that intersection?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was just referring to about. I met with our traffic and our development services team about the need, and you know, because you kind of like to you know, plan for these, and it's an earlier approval. It was done, I think, in 2015, so I think it's quite an older approval. It did end up in the planning court, and yeah, so it's got a bit of a history. But certainly that's something that we need to keep an eye on. But also, as I said, I've met with our development services and also our traffic team to initiate and start those discussions, and you know, look at some, especially pedestrian crossing and safe pedestrian access. So they're the things that I've already started, you know, in that space.
Okay, wonderful. And one of the residents there mentioned that a roundabout has been added on Shepparton Street and they didn't receive any notifications. What's the normal process for notifications?
Yeah, well, that would actually be as part of the development. It's not actually, you know, council, so they would have, because it was impact accessible, I would imagine that the surrounding properties would have been notified. But yeah, that's actually development services as well. It's yeah, and that would be as a requirement. And I think that they're doing some yellow lines down there as well, so you know, people can't park along there. So they need to park on site.
Yeah,
that would be, you know, a better option.
Yep. We believe that there will be another petrol station in that shopping centre, as well as one in the old Tulip Town site shopping centre, which is also in the process of being built. We know that you've raised concerns previously to your fellow councillors about oversaturation of petrol stations last year, or could have been the year before, when the new petrol station was built directly beside Red Dog. Has there been any more development on a possible policy change or potential policy change to address this oversupply of petrol stations and other services, say like medical centres and dentists, in condensed areas like ours, when it doesn't match the population of the area?
Yeah, look, that's it's interesting. I think so that those were with the previous planning scheme that was adopted, you know, prior to me coming to council. And I really encourage all residents, when there's anything to do with the planning scheme, really get involved, and it's important from a business community as well. So so it did go out for multiple consultations. But when I came in, I could see that there was, you know, these being put in, especially in centres and business districts. It can detract from the centres. So what I did is actually set in motion, with my fellow councillors, about putting some changes to the state. So we did a planning amendment, and what that changed, it ended up in the latest round and has been accepted by the state. And with that, it changes where they can go. In other words, you know, that not to detract from the central business district, the size, you know, it can't necessarily act as a quasi supermarket. And thankfully, we've already seen this succeed in areas like Strathpine. One was just refused recently, just very, very recently, probably in the last couple of months, where council refused it, and it was to go in Strathpine. And as you know, I think there's one on either side, and this was going to be another one. Mm-hmm. So these things that, you know, take a bit of time, but I'm very pleased that those amendments have been accepted by the state. And your question regarding health precincts and things like that, you know, it's actually a wider discussion that I'd really love to have with the business community and the community as a whole about where we're heading as a you know, as a town centre and things like that as well. You know, you've got North Lakes at one hand, you're going to have Petrie at the other. So what has been pretty exciting is the fourth year uni students at USC have embarked on a planning study. And I'll just read it out. It says, yeah, they chose to focus on Kallangur, which is fantastic. I have been presented with their work. And I had some Zoom meetings to tell them about the needs of Kallangur and, you know, this is the history and things like that as well. So so this will strengthen our relationship with USC. But they did present a very high standard of work, and it's actually called the Heart of Kallangur Revitalisation Strategy. And last year I put a motion on the table for our strategic planning to look at improving the town centre, and this will actually help inform part of that work. So I'm hoping that they'll come and present to council. That will be the next step. And I believe it's even, possibly going to be put up for an award. So I think there's work being done in that space, but I think that as a business community, perhaps we need to look at, we're not going to be in North Lakes, and what do we have? And we need, we need the amount of people to support our local business as we speak. We know that the bank left, and that happened because our local people didn't. If we're not going to support it, then it goes. And so I don't necessarily see the health precincts and things like that as a detraction. We already know that there's an application for an Indigenous health centre up in Dakabin. That's actually already through the federal government. It's quite a substantive precinct. So I don't see those kind of things as a detraction from our area. Anything that can bring people and businesses, but I think we just need to rethink what our centre looks like. You've got Kallangur, as a fast strip. It's very difficult to kind of stop and kind of meander, if you like. So we need to create spaces that can be done. So I'm pretty excited about that. But if I could also indulge and just talk about Yvonne Chapman Park, there will be a concept planning probably come out next week or the week later that will make a start there. And it's pretty exciting. I was so I'll launch that as I said next week.
Oh, cool. I like the perspective there of sort of, and the idea of putting a new or an spin on our business centre, and
yes,
and the using the hospitality, or not the hospitality, the medical side, medical centre side is a good option there. So it does make sense. So that was the questions I had. So I'm going to open it up to the rest of the members to see if they have additional questions to the ones or more questions to the specific answers that you provided. So anyone, you'll have to unmute yourself. So has anyone got any questions?
Probably a selfish one, Denise, is I work with a solar company, so I heard there's already a community or community group getting solar. Is there any more solar projects for any maybe community groups or for the council that are on the agenda? Because I'll try and find that listing that you mentioned, but just as a matter of interest before I look out for that list. Is there any more solar projects around?
Yeah, look, I'll certainly find out for you there, Ray. Can I call you Ray? Yeah. So that's probably more operational. So that's not something that we necessarily get. Yeah. So I will, I'll find out that and just see how we can assist you and your business to be able to be involved and have an opportunity to deliver solar for our area.
So as you said, it's more trying to support a local, so that's a local business. So I'm not based in, I personally am as a salesman, but the company is based on the south side. So it would gear more, there'd be a greater weighting of the 15% if it's over 50,000 for someone who's running a small business within the Moreton Bay Council as well.
Yeah. Look, Ray, you're exactly right. That means that people outside our area can still apply, but if they're competitive, there will be a weighting towards local business. And I certainly understand where you're coming from as well. But so that was a decision of council, and I think there was there had been in the past that local businesses felt a little bit excluded from that process. So we were very mindful that during these times that we support local. But as I said, if it competes on price, then there is a weighting.
Has anyone else got any other questions for Denise?
Denise, do you know much about the the Dolls Rock Road and Henry Road. Like I know that there's an upgrade because it's going to have sporting fields. It's got nothing to do with businesses, but I just thought rather than ringing someone in the council, you might know more about what's happening there. Do you know anything about the upgrade work for that intersection and sort of what time frame they're working at? Because I came there probably about a couple of weeks ago, about 2 months ago, before I moved to where I was in Marumba Downs. Someone had been pile drived. You know, they went to turn right and didn't realise someone wasn't going to turn and went straight into the side of them then at that Henry Road and Dolls Rock Road intersection. So I know it's up for a revamp or redesign. Do you know much more about it at all?
Yeah, sure. So what I can tell you is that council have done extensive plans, and it's almost shovel ready for that area.
Okay.
But then there was announcements by the state to talking about the Moreton connector. So we just got to make sure that we don't that we utilise ratepayers' funds properly. And don't do something that's going to be changed. But I think that's pretty. Okay. So I think that's pretty well down the track from our perspective. But that is a state. It's a state connector. So, but I take your point, Ray. As much as it's not to do with businesses. If I can actually just encourage the business owners, the 2011 stats compared to 2016 stats. There was actually an increase of people that were working within the region. I think it went 5%, so it increased by 5%. And so what we want to be able to do is actually keep people that so they don't have to travel significant amounts of areas in order to work. So that's what we're trying to do. But I think part of that is so and just doing that. Part of the mill as well. So I don't know if you know with the company that it's called Millivate, that specifically it's a board that will be looking at the opportunities that we have in the area and attracting big business to the mill site. It's free from political influence, so it's its own body, if you like. So we're actively out seeking board members as we speak. So we're probably hopeful that we'll get some pretty large names in there, and then that attracts other things. So, but I suppose I just want to encourage the business community that the trends are definitely heading in the right direction. That we're keeping more people locally, and we've got some pretty exciting entrepreneurial businesses. There's a place in Clontarf that exports to the world. You wouldn't even realise, and even down to our agriculture. If you're talking about our strawberries, and do you know that we're the almost the largest producer in the whole of Australia for strawberries? But even down to selling not just strawberries but the powder, because that can be exported and it doesn't have the time limits and things like that as well. So it's pretty innovative as well. Looking at our planning scheme as well, even for agricultural businesses, because if you look at wine, you've got the wine, and then you've got the producing of the wine, then you've got the cellar-door. So wouldn't it be great for our strawberries to be able to have in our planning scheme that they have that, they have the manufacturing side, but then they'd be able to sell and have a cafe or something like that as well. So we need to make it easier for businesses to do business and expand. Businesses are very good at adapting and overcoming. You're on the ground, you can move quite quickly. And I think that even as a local body, that we need to be able to release you to do what you do best. I love the mindset of business people. I think you put everything on the line. It's you're not getting the pays each week and each fortnight coming into your bank, and often you're the very last people that takes a wage if things get tough. I don't know if that's been in your case, but that can often happen. So I think just getting back to your question, Ray, regarding traffic, we need to work very closely with the state and the feds, so we're all on the same table to deliver outcomes for our community. I think that's where, and we're already, in that space. I think there's probably been some movement in that. I don't know if you've noticed, but I think that's, we need to get good community outcomes.
You know of what the interconnector is? Like, I know there's a blurb about it, but any design work to see whether how it would interfere or complement the work on that corner?
Yeah, so the so Henry Road is so from our point of view, it's pretty much ready to go, but we need to just make sure that it's a good utilisation of ratepayers' funds. And as far as actually a line on a map, it depends what map you look at. So I don't think I can't really comment on that because it's TMR work.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I believe Cameron had a question.
Yeah, it's,
so you're very faint, Cameron, so I
sorry,
can't.
okay, how's that? Yeah. Hopefully a little bit better. Hang on.
Yeah, a bit louder.
Bit louder? Okay, yep. So
still
in regards to the procurement process, am I that quiet, am I?
Sorry.
That's right, hang on a second. Oh, I can't change my settings. Okay. In regards to the procurement process,
you're still quietish.
If you're the only business of a certain type and a tender goes out, would you be notified, or would you be automatically assessed or anything like that, or that sort of thing? So, or do you still have to apply for that tender? You still have to see the tender and still have to apply for it.
All right. So if you're the only one, sorry, it's very faint, but I'll just see if I can hear you correctly, Cameron. If you're the only one on the vendor panel, is that what you're saying? Do you still have to apply?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you would, because it's a public document. So I would imagine that you would, it would still need to go out. Yeah. So I think also, as I said, it competes on this, if it's competitive on price to those outside the region, because this is not stopping people from outside of the region actually also applying. But what it does do is give a greater weighting if you're competitive on price and you're a local business. I think there's, I'm not sure of the exact parameters, but it's if you have the office or the registered office actually in the region and you employ local people. So that's part of the requirements in that, which I think is a pretty good initiative actually. Yeah.
Okay.
I just had a quick question too about the vendor panel. What's the difference between the public marketplace and this private dashboard that I've got myself here?
Can I take that on notice and I'll get back to you? Probably what we can do is actually have a specific session just on for vendors. What I've also asked for is we used to, I don't know if you, if any of you have been able to take advantage of that, is actually when we have a workshop for when people are tendering and it answers all those kind of, those kind of questions. So, yeah, I'll certainly get back to you on that.
Okay.
So I'll just actually make sure. Did you want to pop that in an email to me? And just so I've got your question.
Do I have your email address?
Yeah, Felice will give it to you.
Yep, I'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions while we're here? No? No. Denise, you've offered to come back for future business support sessions. So when businesses have other questions, and probably it would be good to touch base as things progress through this COVID-19 situation that's still not quite over, but and as businesses build up and come back online as well, or open their doors, there probably might be more questions as well. So you've offered to come back again for future sessions. We haven't locked anything down yet, but I think welcome will be welcome from us and other businesses.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the other thing that we've done with businesses is that we've turned the payment plans around as well. So normally it's 30 days, like so the issue of the invoice, but we've been managed to turn that around to 7 days to help cash flow. The other thing is whether businesses or even residents are having trouble paying their rates, just contact council because you can enter a payment plan and there's no interest attributed to that as well. So that's actually up until our September quarter, and then we'll look at that. But you know, there's businesses are finding it tough as well as as long as some residents, but so council have done that. So I think that may assist, but even from our grants perspective as well. So I'm just looking at the community infrastructure grant. So we've had 132 applications, and it's delivered $4,860,000 worth of work to our local area. So we've got total applications approved but not yet paid is another 1.3 million. Organisation hardship and assistance grants, we had total applications of 195, and there's been applications paid 167, and that's 1.2 million. So this is all generated into our local economy. But I think what would be helpful if we perhaps had someone from council to talk to the businesses, and it can be offline as well, regarding vendors and things like that as well, if there's not a workshop available. I think there's individual and specific questions that each business would have, because you're all different, and I think that you really do need assistance in that. Let's, I think that would be great to progress for Liz. But, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to talk to you this morning. I think, this is probably a start, certainly not the finish. And I just wanted to leave something with you about a new vision for Kallangur. This actually comes from the USC work, but there was 4 things, and it says having a strong local identity, to be a smart and sustainable town centre, strengthen community links, and a safe and connected mobility. So if you can look at it around those things, there's work being done behind the scenes that you might not be aware of, and it's I know not only myself but there's others that have the community at heart, and we need to progress that. So again, thank you for your businesses, people taking time out of your very, very busy day. I thank Felice for coordinating this, the Kallangur Business Association, and we'll send those links through.
Again, well, thanks for your time. Like I said, we've all got busy times, but I really appreciate your effort, and hopefully as we put this online and other people get to listen to it, that they'll get back to us, and we'll hopefully have some more questions for yourself at a later time.
Yes, certainly, and I'll talk to Jennifer, Cameron, and yourself regarding the tender process. I'm very keen to work with you, and let's make that happen where we can for you. So
I'll look into that myself for the business.
Yeah. So I'm committed to do that for you.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us today, Denise.
Thank you.